New Jersey is well known for being somewhat congested. And it's not just a stereotype either. We are, in fact, the most densely populated state in the United States. We have the most people per square area in the United States. But that is not to say that the entire state is suburban and urban sprawl. There are a lot of rural areas across New Jersey. I've been to some of the beautiful forests in North Jersey, some of the pine barrens in South Jersey. There are some coastal areas that are just total nothingness where you can lose signal. A lot of the true south part of the state has absolutely nobody in it. But what is the most rural part of Jersey? Where is the place in the most densely populated state in the country where you can go and see or hear no one, find no human influence, lose signal on your phone, and maybe find something cool? Let's find out. The first thing I found in this search was this population map of New Jersey from 2010. Now, you'll notice, obviously, the city areas are quite populated in the red there, but there are a couple green areas. So we've got High Point State Park area, Stokes Forest, all up in there, but that's a state forest, so that has a lot of people recreating. Down here, we've got what is certainly Wharton State Forest, which is a big area of the Pine Barrens that's all preserved. So while plenty rural, it's a popular recreational spot. There's roads all throughout it. So I don't know that that's necessarily the most rural part of the state. But regardless, we're definitely looking somewhere in the greenish within the state for our options. But I had an idea. Since I'm a biologist, I thought I'd look at it through the lens of living things. Because if we just look at where people live, all we're going to end up finding out is where the state forests are. So where is the truly rural, unobserved areas of the state? Well, I'm using iNaturalist, putting in New Jersey. There are almost 2 million observations of animals in New Jersey, 16,000 species. We can see when we look at the map that New Jersey is pretty littered in observations, head to toe. But there is a hole down here in South Jersey. You'll notice this break in observations right here. And believe it or not, in the entire state, this is the largest area in New Jersey on iNaturalist without living things observed. So I think that's our spot. I think we're going deep into the Pine Barrens for an adventure. Welcome to absolute middle of nowhere, Pine Barrens, New Jersey. I'm just going to try to fill in the iNaturalist observations map, just take pictures of many things as possible. There's pines all over the place. There's pine warblers calling. There's a ton of birds. There's puddles on the ground because there was a rain yesterday, so I'll be able to find cool springtails and other bugs. Let's just see what we can do. Okay, the first thing I came across is this little sinkhole pond, probably formed by the recent rains. There are a ton of springtails. I don't even know if you can see. Oh, see that black dot that just jumped in the middle? Those are aquatic springtails, probably the genus Spinthuridis. I'm hoping to find some rare ones here because it's pretty rare. Oh, I see a tadpole swimming. Yep, hoping to find some rare ones here because this is there's a pine warbler, pretty diverse area. So let's see what they are. I'm gonna have to take pictures with my macro lens because never with my normal recording camera are you ever going to be able to see these guys. All right, I got some macro photos. They're on screen now. This is my camera setup. If you want to know more about it, I made a whole video about macro photography, and I'm working on a video specifically about springtails if you like the guys that you're seeing on the surface of the water here. Let's keep exploring. It's really tempting for me to just look at puddles because I love springtails, but I should probably look at some other stuff. I saw some spiders around. There's a lot of cool plants. I need to take pictures of these, make sure I get everything as diverse as possible here. Don't just be biased about my springtails. And I'll start flipping logs at some point and see if we can find some herps or something. All right, I got my shot of a pine warbler. They're absolutely everywhere, but they're tiny and they move a lot, so it's kind of difficult, which means, because I haven't heard any other interesting birds, I can put away the camera. I have so much equipment. Anything I can put away is wonderful. So the bird that I was looking for, my lifer bird of the day, I got. So now I can focus more on the smaller stuff and put away that camera. Well, there were these fallen pine trees, so I placed my tray underneath and then kind of just kicked them, sort of like beat sheeting, if you know what that is from the bug method. And I got some really cool looking springtails. I'll put them on screen now. I think it's Genucia sylvestris, but there's also a Spinthuris species that's undescribed that looks pretty similar, but it's a very, very pretty springtail. So that's a cool method. I don't think I've ever beaten a fallen tree before. I'm excited to try a lot more things. I can peel bark. There's a lot of cool stuff around here I can do. Which reminds me, if this isn't something you've done, I can't recommend it enough. It's one thing to go like look in a park or along a trail or something for species that you haven't seen before, you know, use iNaturalist in that way. But going to like unexplored forest area, observing totally new things, no trails, just kind of walking through the forest, you're gonna get a few more ticks on you, but it is so much fun. It's one of my favorite things in life. Just like feels so good just out here in the wilderness, especially when there's no one around. It's not that I'm particularly antisocial, but like when I'm doing bug stuff, I kind of look like an idiot laying on the ground staring at a puddle with my stupid camera and my $5 diffuser. So I feel less judged and more able to focus and get a good picture when I'm on my own. So it really is an awesome experience. This is crazy. I know I was already in the middle of nowhere, but I've just continued hiking and I am just like truly in the middle of nowhere. I hear geese, funnily enough, so I think there's a water body nearby. I've also seen a few trees chopped down by beavers. I'm just like, this is real exploratory hours. I mean, look at the shit that I'm heading down. Yeah. Highly recommend this experience. I don't have phone signal, and that's freeing for some people. Ooh, that plant looks cool. Look at that. There's cool stuff everywhere. I've gone far enough that I'm in like bogland. These are like vernal pools, places where salamanders and other amphibians lay their eggs. There's a hole there, something living in. All these mossy little mounds, pine trees covered in lichen. It's awesome. Super cool spot. I found this fallen tree absolutely covered in a bracket fungus, and I beat it, you know, hit the mushrooms with the tray underneath, and found some Hypogastrura. Let me see if there's still one on the tray so I can show you guys. And basically a plump type of springtail. And I love these guys. They're really fun to key out under the microscope. So we'll do that in this video. I'll show you guys some cool under microscope stuff, what they look like, how to tell the difference between various species. But that is the kind of thing, I mean, you describe new species from. I am like deep in the rural pine barrens and found a tiny bug on the underside of a mushroom. Like, chances are it's a described species, but like if I was looking to find a new species that science hadn't found before, this would be a wonderful spot. Check out these Orchicella from the bottom of a log. Wow, even with the phone camera, you can make out some details. These guys have a very similar pattern, all of the Orchicella, that aren't like fully colored up, but this is one I haven't seen before with the sort of head pattern and the shoulder pattern, so I'll bet that these are going to be a new species for me. So that's pretty cool. They were just under this random little log that I flipped over and then beat onto the tray. What a beautiful, beautiful area. I love the puddles in the pathway. Able to find tons of cool springtails in there. Cool springtails everywhere, bugs everywhere. The birds have calmed down a bit, but there have been cool birds. I haven't seen any herps. I flipped a few logs, haven't seen anything. Probably just not the right time of year and wetness and everything for them. But what a cool area. What an awesome experience to come do this. I've been in some pretty rural parts of New Jersey, but this is definitely the most middle of nowhere that I think I've hit, even beyond the forests of North Jersey, which are pretty middle of nowhere. The Pine Barrens make you really feel like you live in, I don't even know, central Canada, and there's just nobody nearby ever. And there's the sun. Isn't it beautiful? This fallen tree had loose bark, so I peeled some of it back, and under it found some plump springtails. Can't really see them, but it's the little blue guy right there at the tip of my finger. That's the big one. There's a small one too. You can see them moving around a little bit. So these are a different family than the ones earlier. These guys are actually incapable of jumping, so I don't mind spending time filming them before picking them up, because they can't really run away from me. Pretty cool looking. Okay, I found something I have no explanation for, and hopefully somebody online knows. I was peeling back bark from this tree to try and find more neonurids, more of those little plump springtails. And under the bark are fucking bird feathers. What? How did bird feathers get underneath the bark of a tree? Did a bug take them under there to like eat them? That's baffling. That's very confusing. I don't know what that's about. Spider warning, spider warning. Click off if you don't like spiders. Okay. In addition to this absolutely gorgeous spider right here, I peeled off a log, found a leopard slug. Okay, everybody expects that. And another bird feather. Is this fishing spider eating birds and bringing their feathers under the log? What is going on? This is absolutely absurd. I got back to my car and looked on my backpack in case there were any ticks. And there's one of the tiny, beautiful springtails. That's crazy. All right, it's been a few hours here. I think that's gonna wrap up my journey in the Pine Barrens themselves, but I've got some springtails to key out, so I will see you under the microscope, because that's a fun little way to end this video, is to identify down to species, those cool things, or maybe find out that it's a species that no one's ever seen before. So let's go under the scope. All right, back at home in the lab setting. Excuse probably the worst lab desk you've ever seen. I'm not the most organized with this. I bring home a lot of specimens. So this is what we got from this trip. I have 6 vials worth of specimens. These are my NaOH and lactic acid, which I'll explain in a second, vials that I'm going to use. All right, so I am going to key all of these out and look at them under the scope, but I'm just gonna use this one as the example. These are the guys that we found under the mushroom, the plump springtails that were under the mushroom, like deep in that rural Pine Barrens area. Those are the ones I'm most interested in because who knows, they could be an undescribed species. It's a pretty rural area that's not getting a lot of study. So first things first, with these tiny springtails, when we have this sort of backlit microscope, we need the light to go through the springtail if we want to see any of the important features without just seeing the outline. You know, we want to see some real detailed features. So what we have to do is called clearing the specimen. So we have to take the springtail, which is currently dark. As you can see, the little black guys in there, currently completely dark, and we need to clear them as much as possible. So how this is done is with sodium hydroxide, does the majority of the clearing. So you let them bathe in sodium hydroxide for a while, and then you use a little bit of lactic acid for a little bit of an internal clearing, gets a little bit of that out, and it's also nice to work with under the microscope. So I'm gonna put him in NaOH, and then I'll put him in lactic acid, and then we'll look at him under the microscope, and I'll put the key up on the side of the screen, and you guys can see how we get down to species with him. All right, so it's been a few minutes, and just to sort of demonstrate how this works, you'll see what once was black springtails are now reddish. They are losing their pigment. For some species, I would just put them under the scope right now at this point, because light will shine through them and you can see some stuff. But for these guys, I only have 2 specimens, so I want to really make sure that they're properly cleared. So I'm going to let them sit in the sodium hydroxide for a good bit longer to totally clear, so that I make sure that I can clearly see all of the features that I need to under the scope. All right, I have mounted him onto the slide. He's not crazy clear, but hopefully it should be enough to work with. I left one of them in the sodium hydroxide in case I end up needing it. So the first thing we have to do is prove that this is the family that I think it is. So I want to look for anal spines. I'm in the lowest magnification right now, just to sort of give you guys an overview. We're looking top down on him. You can see the antennae, you can see the legs, a lot of body hairs, which is interesting. It's not super common in Hypogastrura to have body hairs everywhere. And I'm not seeing anal spines at this magnification. So let's go ahead and turn it up. All right, so he is clear enough that we can see some of the patterning here on the back. A lot of these hairs are capitate. Wait, like all of these hairs are capitate. I might know what species this is. Is it covered in stout body hairs that are all capitate? So look at the ends of the hairs. See how they end in circles? Oh, I'll zoom in for y'all. See how the hair ends in a circle? Is that on all of the body hairs? It's on a lot of them. Oh man, I might know what this is. Oh, it's on a lot of them. Oh, this is a unique species. I have not seen one either without anal spines or with stout capitate hairs. That's interesting. All right, so let me get some photos of this, and then I'll flip them over, and we can look at the foot complex, and then we can properly key them out. All right, so the anal spines that we weren't able to see earlier are actually here. They're pretty tiny, but you can see them at the end of the body there. And I am able to resolve a foot complex, aka a foot there. You can see that one really strong clavite hair, which is the hair hanging over the foot complex itself. You can see it again right here. And it is capitate. It has a little cap on the end. That should be enough to key this guy through. I'm fairly sure I already know what species it is based on the strong capitate hairs all over the body, but let's walk you through the key. All right, so here's a key. It's taken from Maynard, which is a paper from the 50s from New York, but I adapted it to New Jersey. It could obviously be missing species, but generally if something keys out cleanly in this, we expect then we know what species it is. So we can start at the beginning of the key. I'll put the photos on screen as we go. I did not show on camera, unfortunately, the furca, which is the thing why they're called springtails, the tail that makes them spring. That's where the dentes are, but there were no dorsal teeth on the dentes. So we can move on to 4, 1 tenant hair, sometimes poorly developed, or 2 or 3 long clavate tenant hairs. I showed you guys that on the foot complex, there was only a singular tenant hair hanging over the foot complex. It was a strong one, well developed, but only one of them. So we move on to step 5. Anal spines present or absent. Originally, I thought they were absent, which would have put us at Tigrana. Unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately, they were present. We just needed to look at them from a different angle, which is why you always look under the scope from different angles. And then we go to step 6, and we get body with stout capitate hairs versus body without stout capitate hairs. And the stout capitate hairs put us at Picardy. This keys out pretty cleanly to Hypogastrura picardi, which is cool. I'm gonna now look at the description to make sure it lines up. All right, so looking at Hypogastrura picardi, described by Folsom, but I'm looking at the description in Maynard from the 50s. Dark indigo blue throughout. That matches up with what we saw in the field. All of this stuff is standard to Hypogastrura, besides maybe the antenna ratio, but I didn't measure that. The unguis, which is the big claw on the foot complex, was untoothed, which is true. It did not have a tooth. The tenant hair was stout, but longer than the unguis. That's true. Dentes didn't have dorsal tooth. That's true. The anal spines, there were 2 of them. They were nearly as long as the unguis, and they were curving on large continuous papillae, which are the little bumps that they were on. That's all true. Clothing of many stout curving serrate setae of moderate length, interspersed with a few long stiff capitate setae, more or less serrate, which is also true. So everything about lines up here from color to all the microscopic details. So although not a new species, it is a new species to me, and we found some cool Hypogastrura picardi deep in the Pine Barrens. And with that, my Pine Barrens adventure has concluded. I've got a lot more stuff to key out under the scope, but I won't bother you guys with that. If you want to learn more about springtails, or you want to see more keying out under microscopes and more features and better anatomical descriptions and all that, I am working on a large in-depth video into springtails and getting into collecting them and finding them and all the cool types and describing them and identifying them and so forth. So if you are interested in that, stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, thank you. Have a great day.